up, Kansas City? My name is Sharice King, your host for the Real Estate Junction, brought to you by Curls U. Joseph Property Group. Today we'll be speaking about the Green Impact Zone. Our guests today will be Tawana Scott and Anita Malbia. We want to thank you and welcome you for coming today.
Thank
you for inviting us.
And Anita, I want to ask you, the Green Impact Zone, how was the Green Impact Zone, or how was Mid-America Regional Association Council selected to be the management or the cohort to facilitate their project?
Yes, well, Councilman Emmanuel Cleaver II was the one who had the idea. And he wanted to put it under the auspices of an apolitical organization. The Mid-America Regional Council is a regional planning agency that's been working almost 50 years with the governments of 9 different counties. So they were very practiced at bringing together lots of people, to build consensus, to talk through things. He thought that this would be a great location for us. As a result, for the 4.5 years that we've been in operation, they served as our backbone organization for our finances, our HR. They were our upline for administration.
You're talking about the Mid-America Regional Council.
Mid-America Regional Council.
Right. And either you, Anita or Tawana, can you tell me, explain more about the Green Impact Zone, or you can share in that thought?
Well, I tell you what, we'll break it up. I'll tell you about the basic overall concept. Tawana will tell you about the tracks that we ran on.
Okay.
The concept was to be a place-based initiative that would work with 150 square blocks in the central part of the city. At the time that it was formed, we actually encompassed 3 different councilmanic districts.
Okay.
There's been redistricting since then, and so that's changed. But it was a good move. It was important that it cover those 3 different districts. The idea was to work with the people who had been in the community, particularly those in leadership roles, to formulate what should be the vision and what should be the strategies that flow from that vision. And we had several end products that were to be major. One was that we were to raise the hope factor. So critical. Hope is that elusive thing that you can't touch, but it's so real.
Right.
And when you raise the hope factor, then people have that internal fire. The other was to increase the capacity of these neighborhoods, and there are 5 of them, all of which have been organized for many years and doing great work in their communities, but for the most part made up of volunteers. So it was to raise the capacity of those neighborhoods. And then the third thing was to build a model that could be replicated. One that could be used to accomplish a number of things, not only in the zone, but anywhere in Kansas City or anywhere in the world for that matter.
Okay, that's great.
I think that it's important to know that when we came on board, Mark gathered the neighborhoods that Anita talked about together, the leadership of those neighborhoods, and specifically those neighborhoods include our Town Fork Creek, Blue Hills, Manheim, Ivanhoe, and Trucewood. Those are the 5 neighborhoods that make up the 150 square blocks. Mark gathered the leadership of those neighborhoods and said, what is it that needs to happen in order to build the hope factor, in order to address your capacity, in order to make it a place where people want to live, work, and play. And they specifically said to him there were 8 different categories that needed to be addressed, improved, to make this a better place to live. And that's where the term place-based initiative comes in. A lot of people, when we first started, thought, oh, that's a lot to work on. But when you are going to revitalize a community and build the hope factor, you can't just work on one thing. And so those 8 areas included housing, employment and training, infrastructure, urban agriculture, youth, energy efficiency and water conservation, weatherization, and urban agriculture. I think I've said all 8.
Yes.
But in those 8 areas, they said this is what we need to see change in. And so as a staff, we had the benefit of walking into the the plan, so to speak, of what they saw, the vision of what they wanted to see accomplished, and then our task was to work on effectuating change in those areas.
Great, that's great information. Tawana, I know you were very heavily involved in the project, so could you tell us and tell the audience what was the what were you most passionate about on the project? I know there was so many things. Was there anything in specific that you might have been passionate about the most out of the project?
Being able to be a part of the project was fueled my passion because I grew up in this community.
Right.
And so I'm a baby boomer, I'm a 50s, 60s child, and I lived in this community at a time where the housing stock was very good looking and people were involved in the community and there were businesses that were thriving. And what many of us look east of Truce and see today, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s looked like the Brookside and the Waldo. So I was passionate about being a part of a team that could collaborate across all those 8 areas and begin to work at making things look better. So it was a passionate experience, period, of being a part of the team to effectuate change.
Okay. Well, Anita, being on the ground with the project, can you tell us or tell me what you've seen hands-on that has actually impacted the communities? Like if you spoke with a neighbor or a homeowner or store owner or anyone that was starting a business, can you tell me what you've seen that they felt like impacted with the green impact zone in the areas?
Yes,
specifically?
absolutely. One of those things, and you've heard us use the term now a couple of times, capacity building. And we know that our neighborhood associations are stronger now than they were when we first started working with them.
Excellent.
That's so critical because we have the whole philosophy that follows the old adage, teach a man how to fish as opposed to giving him one. And so to see that capacity being built within these neighborhood associations where they are making contacts and they are laying plans and they are attracting other partners is critical. Another huge piece is the whole infrastructure piece and the public safety issues that the infrastructure implies. Now, infrastructure, of course, the public right-of-way here, sidewalks and curbs and that kind of thing. Where our office is situated, we can look out the window and see folk walking in the street because the curbs and sidewalks were upheaved and broken and so forth. And some of them in other parts of the zone much worse. As a result of us being there and having been the target of a $50 million grant where $26.2 million of it was spent in the zone, we now have over 11 miles of new curbs and sidewalks that folk in this community did not have to pay for. So these are some things that people give us feedback about and say, you know, this has really made a difference. And I know Tawana has some other things that she could talk about.
Sure.
Yes, I think I'm remembering some of the testimonies from residents that have voiced how the Green Impact Zone has helped them. And a few weeks ago, I was in a Manheim neighborhood meeting, and one of the residents said that now that she has the opportunity to use some of the in-home display tools to manage her energy bill, and she's able to save money because of that, I think that is an example of something very tangible that enables people to experience a better quality of life, because the house she's living in, she now has had weatherized. She's using the tools that came from the KCPL grant, the Smart Grid grant. So that is a very tangible experience. And more than anything, hearing people say that because of the Green Impact Zone, I am now working, or I'm now making $15, $16 an hour, that gets to the core of how you really revitalize a community.
Right, great, thank you. Also with that, I know that there are some specific projects that have happened. I know there was the Bancroft and the Mary Kelly Center. I don't know all of them specifically. Can you share and tell me exactly which ones and where those projects that are under completion or have been completed, where they are located and where they are? You mind sharing that, Tawana?
Sure. As I mentioned, one of the 8 initiatives was housing.
Right.
And from a housing perspective, The most, probably the largest scale, because you need to do things of scale, is the Bancroft School on 42nd and Tracy. And it has a total of 50 units of new housing, affordable housing, that people will be able to live in quite affordably. It was taken from an old abandoned blighted school that when the Green Impact Zone started, the neighborhood had been working with other partners to put plans together to do something with that space. And we were part of the collaboration process of pulling the resources together so that it is now, what was once a blighted school, is now 50 units of new housing in the area. The other is working with the Ivanhoe Neighborhood Association that has had plans in place from 39th and Euclid, where we once saw the Horseman School, over to Prospect, where now is Aldi's. Ivanhoe has a 4-phase development plan, and we were able to assist them in getting the additional support, planning support, so that they are now in, I believe, the summer, going to be able to break ground, and you'll have senior cottages, you'll have duplexes. So the beauty of that is, long after the Green Impact Zone is gone, you will still begin to see the effect of what was done in collaboration with other organizations here. And then, of course, the Mary Kelly Center, which should be clearly attributed to the Upper Room and the Brandenmeyer family, and we've been able to assist our neighborhoods, Town Fork specifically, in being able to develop programming for that space or work on that space.
I know that earlier this summer that you and I worked on the neighborhood housing tour.
Yes.
And I know we want to keep that going so that people can see the impact of what the Green Impact Zone has done and how we can move progressively with that. That is something you want to continue, is that correct?
It is something that we're going to continue, and we are in the process of handing off various initiatives that supported those 8 areas, and one of those handoffs will be the housing tour. We will get back with you to let you know the date of that housing tour. When I say we'll get back with you, the organization that picks it up will get back with you, but we're in conversation now with 2 organizations to pick up the housing tour, which did a wonderful job of educating people about what is going on in the zone and making it attractive to live here.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both, Anita Malbia and Tawana Scott. I appreciate your time and your efforts for coming. I'm your host, Cherise King with the Real Estate Junction. Also, in the words of Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American astronaut, never be limited by other people's limited imagination. And also, in the words of Fred Curls, make it happen.